So we had a little glitch in the internet, but picking up with what I was saying, it was very interesting. I was talking to Bridget Sayer.
Yes, yeah.
And Bridget Sayer was telling me exactly that as a young girl, she did a lot of performing jazz and lyrical dancing, but nothing on points. So she felt she developed a real sense of performance experience and a quality of movement, but she didn't have the pressure of doing it on point. And she felt that that was very beneficial in her education.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually if you do too much ballet too soon or too much point, or not that necessarily too much, but maybe too intense, I think it can make you stiff and locked up as a young child. And as a dancer now, you have to be able to really move. The movement quality has changed. It's
Yes.
not about a prim ballerina completely upright and I can do my solo. The expectation of what a dancer is asked to do today is quite different.
Yes.
You
Yes.
have to address that in the training.
Yes, I agree. What for you was, how was it for you? Did you have a foot injury or an injury that made you not be able to dance?
Yes, I did have foot injuries, and that's because I have a high instep and the space in my front of my ankle is quite tight. I don't have a lot of room here, whereas a lot of dancers get problems in the back of the Achilles. For me, it's the front of the ankle. So plieing for me is not so easy. So because of that, I developed bone spurs in the front of my ankle, and eventually that created.
What just for people to understand who may not be dancers, what is a bone spur?
So a bone spur is when you get a bit of extra bone growing, like on the end of the bone.
Okay.
Somewhere in the bone. So that's
Is
what
that like a painful thing? Is it, what does it do and feel like?
So some people have bone spurs and they don't feel it. It sort of depends. In my case, where it was in this part of the foot, when you're trying to do a lot of plie, a lot of deep landings, it gets restricted. So then everything starts pinching and rubbing on each other, and that creates inflammation. And then the inflammation creates the problems that makes all the pain. So on both feet, actually, at different points, these bone spurs had to come out. So that obviously meant some time off. And actually, one of the surgeries wasn't successful, so it had to be repeated.
So you had two surgeries.
Yeah, well, actually, three. Two on one foot and one on the other foot.
And what was your recovery time after that?
So I would say roughly 3 months from sort of date of surgery to back at work, 3-ish, maybe 4. Yeah, around that mark is how I remember it.
How was your rehabilitation process?
So I was really lucky. I had amazing people around me, and people with a lot of experience, teachers with a lot of experience in rehabilitation and injuries. So I was working with David Wall, and then he brought in Alfreda Thurgood to help me with my point work. And when Alfreda wasn't available, I would do my point work with Andrea Hall, as it was actually amazing. And I think the wonderful thing that I learned from David is that injury can be positive. It's a time of growth and learning and deepening, and you can come back much better. So he always made me feel that this didn't have to be a life-ending detrimental thing, which of course as a dancer is how it feels. It just feels horrendous. But David was always able to get that out of my head. And just coming back very slowly, very methodically, really going like step by step by step. And yeah, it was actually, when I reflect, they were wonderful experiences.
Yeah, I also agree that an injury can be your body telling you you need time to stop, reevaluate, and pull yourself together in a different way. I agree that it's very important that the teacher or the coach makes the student or the dancer feel like this is not the end, this is not a catastrophe, oh my God. It shouldn't become a drama, because then you can help more the dancers psychologically to come back sooner than if, it's like when you have a little child.
Yes.
And they fall down.
Yeah.
They look at you And if you're all freaked out, they will start to cry.
Yeah.
But if they fall down, I mean, not seriously, if they fall down and they see you're like, it's okay, then they know it's okay, so they get back up. I think it starts already when one is small. If
Yes.
the teacher is making it out to be, oh my God, it's the end of the world, then the dancer sort of falls into that, and it's not helpful. I think it's always helpful to be more positive.
Absolutely. And David, I don't know, he kind of had a gift as a teacher that he would sort of know you better than you knew yourself. So there'd be days I'd show up for my coaching class and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. It feels slightly swollen today and really like on edge. He'd be like, oh, right, darling, I see. So we would do like a few plies and tonus. He'd be like, that's it. That's all we're doing today. And I'd be like, that's it. That's the thing. I think that's plenty. And so he would be able to navigate, because of course recovery is like this, and he would be able to navigate those little dips and kind of just make them seem like it was nothing at all. And of course the next day you'd feel better and you could do more. We'd maybe get up to frappe. So yeah, I was really, really lucky to have people who could really navigate the journey for me, so I didn't have to really figure it out myself. So in a sense, I guess I was spoiled.
Can I ask your opinion? Because there's a topic I find very interesting. In some companies, in some situations, it is no longer the dancer who decides whether they should be off. It's the PT, the physiotherapist.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in my generation, myself as a dancer, I would never have allowed someone to decide for me whether I should be off or not. I'm not talking about if you have a broken foot and you're in your cast and you can't walk. I'm talking about if you have something in your back or your hip or something that is still danceable, but is causing you uncomfort. I just feel that sometimes we get a little bit too much into coddling.
Yeah.
Dancers get over pampered. And then they lose the instinct, because the human instinct to survive is so strong. Yeah. And I think if we over coddle people, they kind of lose that a little bit. And I just wanted to hear, as a dancer in today, what your thoughts about that were.
I think that as a dancer, I think with not even as a dancer, as people, as no one knows yourself better than you. No doctor, no physio can know better than deep inside of yourself what's going on. So of course it's very important to get medical advice and get good medical advice, because of course you can also get bad medical advice, and to really take all of that on board and digest it. But you have to also know within yourself, what's going on. So I think there is a line in there, and it can be tricky to navigate that. I think it's easy to get lost, but I think as a dancer you have to always follow your instincts.
Yes.
Because the flip side of that is you can be told, oh, you're completely ready to go back, and you can be in agony and be like, I don't see how I can do that, and so it can go kind of either way. So you have to always follow what feels right to you. You can be like, okay, I have got this, I don't know, thing, but actually I know that I can work through it and I know it will get better. Or it can be like, I have this shoulder thing, and why am I being told I can dance when I cannot? And I can barely move my arm. And if I do dance like this, it's going to be horrible. So you have to listen to your own voice and take advice and know when it's bad advice, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think it's good to work with PTs. I think that in the dance world, we don't have enough good PTs that are really experienced and understand dancers psychologically and also physically. But I still believe that a dancer should, I agree with you, knows his body best. And I still think the decisions should always be left up to the dancer.
Yeah, you should never have your autonomy taken away from you.
Yeah, that's
that
what
is maybe, I think, what we're saying. Yeah. And that can happen
listen to the advice, get even two opinions, but I still think it should be a personal choice.
Yeah. Yeah, no one should decide for you what's happening.
So moving on now to 4pointe, let me know what your, no, before that, can I just ask you, did you have point shoe issues?
Uh, yes, I did have point shoe issues.
Did you wear a lot of different kinds of point shoes, or did you find your shoe right away? How was it for you?
So at the Royal Ballet School, we were all fitted, beautifully fitted professionally by Freeds, and we all had our Freed shoes, and they were custom for us, and that was amazing. And I stayed in my Freeds throughout my training in the beginning part of my career at EMB. And then after I had my ankle surgery, and I think this can happen after an injury, you start to kind of question everything. Why did this happen to me? And oh my God. And so I kind of felt that my shoes weren't supporting my feet enough. I needed something much more supportive, stronger, that the reeds were too soft, or that was my track at that time. And I guess also I was surrounded by quite a few wonderful friends who I deeply cherish, who are Russians. So they obviously, well, at the time, were not fans of the Freeds because they felt that you could sit in Freeds. So I ended up in Grishkos.
Ah, I can't imagine that for you.
No, which is obviously a completely different shoe. And they were supportive. So I did achieve this goal. But after a while, I started getting freaked out by the Grishkos. And I would say to colleagues of mine at work, I'd be like, I feel like I'm standing on top of a mountain. Like I'm like too high. Like this is freaky. And long story short, I ended up back in Freeds and I felt much better. But that was an interesting kind of trajectory. And I did learn a lot about pulling up out of Grishkos, but that losing that connection of the 3/4 point through the floor, that didn't work for me because I would feel like I'd be in my plie or whatever transition. And then again, like I said, this up onto the top of the mountain onto point. It was a bit of a jump. So yeah.
So you're like me, a firm lover of free shoes.
Very much so, yes. Yeah.
I remember when I first started, I wore very briefly Capezio.
Yeah.
I also went through a stint with Gambas, which they don't make anymore.
No, they don't. Yeah.
And then I went to Blocks. And I think when I started in Geneva and in Hamburg, I wore Blocks in the beginning. But then the more articulated I got, the more my work got intensified and articulated. Blocks became too heavy for me. It became very boxy because I was very articulated and I needed more here. And so I went to Freeds, and I wore Freeds until the day I retired at 53. So I was a lifelong lover of Freeds, and I was fortunate. I wore C Maker, sometimes P Maker, which were the same shoes that Marcia Hayday wore. So I always felt very honored that we shared the same maker.
Yes, amazing.
But the only thing I found difficult about Freeds was that when you got a bag of Freeds, two shoes for me were not the same.
No.
So I used to have to take 10 pairs and find the two. I would always mix and match so I could find the pair that worked. But then, I don't know, for me, wearing Freeds was like wearing an incredible bathing suit or an incredible pair of satin gloves. It was just like putting something on that was part of your skin. I don't know. I just felt so amazing in Freeds.
Yeah, I have exactly the same feeling with Freeds. I totally identify with that.
But I really think it's so personal because I was talking with Bridget Zaire and she feels the same. She feels that Gaynor Mindens are a part of her. And I know some people that wear Block and they feel it's the same. And I just really think that a point shoe is an extremely personal thing. It's not something that somebody else can understand because, like you said before, nobody knows your body like you do.
Yeah.
But I think nobody can know what it feels like when you put your foot inside that shoe.
Yeah, exactly.
What the sensation is that you have. And when you go up, you can know what your own sensation is, but you can't know what somebody else's sensation is. And that's why I think it's possible that so many people like so many different kinds of shoes.
Yeah, exactly. It's so individual. Everyone's foot and their feeling, it's all, yeah, it's different. It's interesting how different it is actually.
Yeah. So now let's get to the big question. What was your introduction to 4-point and your thoughts on 4-point for you?
Well, through a very close friend and teacher in London, Renato, I was so grateful to be introduced to you. And I'm trying to remember it exactly. I think Renato set up some classes for you to teach in London, and I was there. So it was just amazing. My kind of first feeling about it was amazing. And for me, that I don't know how to explain it. I think I was already articulated, and this was a way to enhance the feeling that I loved so much. So I was like, I loved it. I was like, this is what I've been looking for. It helped me to maximize and understand actually what I already had, and then how to increase it. And with exercises, it also, I don't know, they feel good on the body. So, and most point exercises don't feel great on the body. So it was nice to do something, was like, wow, this feels great. That's not something we associate with point work so much.
And what do you feel the value is for recovering dancer or for teachers or for professional dancers?
I think a big thing that I got out of 4-point, especially in the beginning, is through years and years of dancing classical ballet where everything is to the right. My left foot was really strong at certain things, and my right foot was strong at certain things, but then weaker at other things. And 4-point, I think also because of the use of parallel, which is so valuable, I was able to even out all the little kinks and imbalances and really strengthen both feet up, really. So things, my actually entire body, not just my feet, my whole body felt evened out again, which for me was really nice because I felt slightly like this. So I was like back on 2 feet again. Yeah. And actually another big thing was how to get your feet really warm for rehearsal, performance, even in a class, or especially the whole first series of the exercises, to get deeply warm in your feet and get all those little kinks out, like little muscles that maybe didn't get totally warm, and get everything kind of elasticated in the foot. There is no other way of doing it that I'm aware of. So that was really valuable.
And because I know that you do teach sometimes and are thinking about going into teaching when you do eventually retire, do you feel that 4-point is something that you would be interested in for your students and to pursue in the future? And what would be the benefits?
Yeah, for me, there's no way I would not be able to incorporate 4-point into my teaching. I find it is essential. Like for me, it's fundamental. And if I were taking a student, adult dancer, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever, and teaching them point, for me, it would be the only way I can teach point, actually, because for me, it explains, and the exercises themselves teach the body what it is I would want them to do. Also, with what dancers are being asked to do today, that repertoire of just say the foot or the leg is essential. If you are going to dance modern works where you will be working on in parallel, you have to have a bar or exercises that prepare the body to do that. So yeah, for me, 4-point would be hugely important as a teacher, as a method to teach. I can't think of teaching point in another way, actually.
Oh, nice to hear that. What do you think is lacking in the point training of today or the point working companies of today?
So I would say what's lacking is an understanding of all the little section of the foot, and how, each part has a job, or it needs to be articulated or worked. I think a lot of it's just about going down and getting up. I mean, people do talk about rolling off of point, but I think we can go further. And I think that's something that 4pointe offers, which is amazing. And I think it's very much with point work, a missing link is it's sort of one size fits all. Like, here's your combination and just slot yourself into it, and this is your point work. And I think it's not that simple. And I think lots of dancers have different issues on point. Like, some people find it really hard to hop on point and make that, like the banana shape. That can be, for some dancers, horrendous. I've seen so many beautiful ballerinas, loathe that movement. And so I think making it a little bit more tailored to each person's foot and leg shape and hips and body is needed. I don't think it's just like, oh, I did my 16 releves, so I can do point work. I think there's a lot more space in there to develop and grow.
Do you feel that there's a narrow-mindedness about learning something new?
I think there can be this, I mean, of course exists, narrow-mindedness. But I think when people are challenged by something, they want solutions. So I think actually there is at the same time open-mindedness as well.
I just feel that someone who's been teaching point for 20 years is like, well, I've been teaching for 20 years, so I have all the answers. But I don't think, in my opinion, anybody has all the answers. I don't have all the answers either. I just think that if you look at ballet, ballet has evolved so much. We have learned in ballet class, we have taken elements from Pilates, from gyrotonics, from yoga. Sport therapists have taught us that it's not good to stretch before class because it softens the muscles. It's actually better to do cardio before. We've learned about restructuring the ballet class to have dancers be more fit. But there's been no evolution in point technique. But what's being demanded of dancers to do on point today in ballets like Dawson or Billy Forsyth is not the same as doing da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba. A solo from Bayadere, which is totally up and down and up and down. When you
and
do
on balance.
contemporaries, you're in, you're banana, you're over, you're out, you're off point, it's just so much more demanding. And I think that, of course, the basic concept of point technique is there, but one, as you said, we learned Pilates exercises to help ballet. One also needs to learn point exercises to help the point technique. I find it's the same. It's a kind of evolution.
Absolutely. And it's a part of the technique that in our teaching or ballet classes hasn't evolved so much as other sections of the class have and have changed, and we have new ideas about it. But yeah, there's space in point work for that, for sure. Yeah.
Tell me, what was for you the most difficult solo or part you had to do on point? I don't mean stamina-wise or dramatically. I just meant physically on point.
Okay, let me think. I can think of one solo, which was in Wayne Eagling's production of Nutcracker, the character of Louise. In Act 2, she becomes a butterfly. And Wayne made this solo that was like, for me, so difficult. And it started with like, so you come on stage, you're on fourth on point, you do like a little bourrée, these like pretty little arms, and then it was like, it started, and it was like step jeté, and let me think, step jeté, and you end up releve, quasi attitude on point, hop, 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 turning, plie, releve. And then it was like down pirouette and down pirouette and down pirouette and plie releve. And it just like, it was so hard. But the first rehearsal, and I had to do those hops on point in a big position, in attitude, and turning and stay on balance to go plie releve at the end. I was like dying. I was like, I cannot believe my toe is going to have to do this. So that was really hard. I mean, it got better, and you figure it out by practicing. But that was a really tough number.
Did you find having to do the banana, because you have beautiful feet, beautiful arch feet. Did you find having to do a banana a difficult thing? Because I know a lot of people who have really beautiful arches have trouble to pull back and do banana.
Actually, for me, I don't know why or how. It's not a movement I ever found difficult, and I found it easy to do. But for some reason, in this solo, I don't know if it was the impetus of maybe coming from a big jump forward. That was probably something to do with it. Being in attitude, croisé, and then turning that way, maybe the combination of everything. I found that really hard to really stay on balance, control the position, keep your leg up and not drop it, rotate, and then finish on balance. I found that quite tricky. Something about having the leg behind. I think I found hopping on point with the leg in front easier, I guess, because then you can make that
You can sit.
sit.
You can sit. And when you're in attitude, your pelvis is more forward.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a different weight transference.
Yeah. And I found it like so heavy in the foot. Somehow here in this position, it felt like light, but in this position, I was like, I felt like I was drilling into the center of the earth. So yeah, that was hard. It used to hurt my toes.
And a modern piece?
Modern pieces, no, there's nothing that super springs to mind. But I think it's because I would be able to make the most of the thing I love the most, rolling up and rolling down. So in those contemporary works, you can really get into that. So yeah, I would really enjoy it because it's what I like to do. Rolling up and rolling down. So actually, no, can't think of anything contemporary where I found it super challenging.
Well, Desiree, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful and fun and exciting. And I want to thank you for doing the interview, and I wish you a lovely day. And thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this with 4pointe and my followers. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you soon again in one of my videos.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.